So every human is a field of consciousness that is patterned and influenced by many things. You could think of all of consciousness as various forms of possession. Normally we think of possession in terms of spirit possession, that, you know, when people say the word in English, they think I'm possessed, they think, oh, I'm possessed by it. They think of it in terms of spirits, or if we say someone's possessed, we usually mean a spirit, although we sometimes mean it to use some peculiarly strong influence without necessarily meaning a spirit. But the truth is, in a sense, that all humans are possessed by memories, by their genetics, by their ideas, emotions, by their ancestors sometimes, etc., etc. In Jyotish, in the Sanskrit word for planet is graha, which graha means to seize or take over. So people's consciousness, in a sense, is also possessed by planets. The planets are one way, one place we can look to find out what we're possessed by, because a part of improving life is choosing or getting some leverage over what we're possessed by, both by clearing out things that possess us that we don't want to be possessed by, that are unhelpful, being able to notice that and then get some leverage. And so looking through the lens of Jyotish, you can at least see which planets possess your consciousness most strongly, both across your lifespan in terms of your stable personality and through a certain period of time based on the planetary cycle that you're running or the transits. Because we usually feel that our thoughts, our ideas, our emotions are inherently valuable and we should act on them. Those of us, I forget who it was, some famous philosopher said the sad thing is that fools and fanatics are completely confident, and those of knowledge and intelligence doubt themselves continually. Meaning, those of knowledge and intelligence are more strongly possessed, amongst other grahas, by the planet Saturn, who rules doubt. Doubt, of course, is a double-edged sword in life, like many other things. It's opposed to faith, but it's also opposed to idiocy and fanaticism. So, for a general thought on personality, you're talking both about the fundamental personality, the ahamkara, the I vehicle, the I carrier of the person. Ahamkara means the I am vehicle, which is illustrated by the first house. And you're talking about the manas, the emotional mind, which is illustrated by the moon and the fourth house. And you can also be talking about the intellectual mind, which is governed by the fifth house and its lord and Mercury. And you can also be sort of talking about what we could call the clever mind, which is governed by the third house of initiative and industry and its lord. But generally, to make an assessment on which planet will tend to possess you most strongly, that will function on the two factors of strength and influence. So strength is a measure of how strong a planet is, and there are a number of different measures for that. Influence is usually which planet influences the first house, the sun and the moon, the greatest number of times. This can also be a way of measuring influence. Sometimes there are special conditions that lead into some other kind of possession. And Donald Trump's horoscope is a good example of another kind of possession, a possession that I believe humanity collectively is suffering from these days, and that is an excess of the influence of Rahu and Ketu. These are the nodes of the moon, the north and south nodes of the moon, the points in space that cause eclipses. It's said when there's an eclipse, the nodes of the moon, who are shadow planets and are classified as asuras or demons, temporarily steal the power of the luminaries, who are the sun and the moon. Donald Trump was born on an eclipse, and so on a full lunar eclipse, and so both of his luminaries, both the sun and the moon, the power is stolen by Rahu and Ketu. This becomes very important in his horoscope because he's ruled by the sun. He's a Leo, so sun rules his first house. So sun is pretty much exactly conjunct Rahu in his 10th house. And that means that in this instance, because of this special circumstance of when he was born, the predominant influence on his personality is Rahu. Rahu is a planet without a head Rahu is considered to be the child of Maya, or the illusory play of nature. Rahu is often depicted as a head without a body, and he governs all sorts of false appearances, an appearance generally, whether false or true. So we are all coming under the influence more and more of false appearances. We now have deep fakes with the help of AI, but ever since the invention of television, in the age of Kali Yuga, Kali being another demon, the demon that rules this particular time on Earth, we've all been very influenced by imagery that has a certain kind of falseness to it in the form of television, movies, and now overwhelmingly with the internet. So we're bombarded by imagery, and that intends to increase the sense of being possessed by the planet Rahu. So when it comes to politics and people who are in politics, there are usually yogas needed to become that powerful and famous, and they usually involve combinations, Raja Yogas, kingly combinations, which are combinations of an angle and a trine. So houses, in this case, not so much 7, but 1, 4, 10, and 1, 5, 9. The fourth house is considered the throne room, the seat of the throne. It's all kinds of homes, but it's certainly the throne or the palace. The fifth house is the place of the chief minister. The ninth house is the place of the minor minister, and the 10th house is government or rulership authority. So in the case of Donald Trump's horoscope, we have this full lunar eclipse across the 410 axis, meaning that Moon and Ketu sit in the fourth house of the throne, with the ruler of that house, Mars, in the ascendant, very close to the rising degree, looking back into the fourth house. And Sun, as the symbol of government and kingship, is in the 10th house, closely conjunct Rahu. So, and then that combination is in turn closely aspected by Jupiter for the second house, who's the ruler of the fifth chief minister situation. So there are other combinations and other yogas in this horoscope, but most pursuant to this discussion is this 410 axis. The Donald Trump's hair also is an indicator that he is possessed by the planet Rahu, both because of the sun can rule the head and the unusual color and manner of styling his hair. The artificiality of that is a sign of how much his own consciousness is possessed by the planet Rahu. Barack Obama gave a press speech a few years into his presidency, making a joke out of the notion that Donald Trump would become president, and he had some big neon sign, and an image of a big neon sign in front of the White House. And at the time, it seemed like that would remain totally in the realm of a joke, and that it's not something that would ever happen. But of course, that has actually transpired. So the problems, I think, have become evident across these few years. Now, that begs the question, are planets causative or indicative? I would say that they're both causative and indicative. So they're both indicative of someone's state of consciousness, where it's coming from, and they're causative in that they tend to take possession of people and perpetuate further streams of activity and behaviors. This causative indicative question is also, though, leads into collective consciousness. So some spiritual leaders say people get the leader that represents the collective consciousness of the nation, so that in a certain sense, Donald Trump is also both causative and indicative, because the collective personality of America is now sort of, at least symbolically, represented by Donald Trump, who embodies certain qualities many individual Americans may not wish to be possessed by, along with the collective consciousness of their country. So, at the moment, transiting Jupiter has been and is sitting pretty much directly on top of Donald Trump's Moon-Ketu combination in the 4th house of the throne room, thereby imparting, since it is his current Dasha Lord, it's imparting a great deal of influence to his personality and to what is happening on the stage of the nation. Where his Moon and Ketu sit is pretty much precisely with the marker star Ophiuchus, the great dragon that is on the axis of the Milky Way at the current time. Ophiuchus is actually, or very near the axis of the Milky Way at the current time. They say that star, you can look from that star to the center of the galaxy, to the black hole at the center of the galaxy. The actual Milky Way axis runs through a pair of nakshatras called Mula and Ardra, which are the portions of Sagittarius and Gemini. Ophiuchus is the marker star for the nakshatra Mula, meaning it's the anchor to finding the image or pattern for that constellation. Mula is a nakshatra associated with Nariti, the goddess of calamity, and with the black hole at the center of the galaxy, and with all forms of discord, disruption, etc., etc. So I think that pretty much speaks for itself. To look at, we can look at some other horoscopes in future videos so you can see how to find which planets possess you most strongly and how to work with those qualities to confine them, contain them, eliminate them, or improve them. Thank you. Bye.